The Premier League is the pinnacle of club football. The theatre, the tension and the talent are unrivaled in a league which boasts nearly 2 billion followers worldwide. And yet...
Now, I'm not sure what would make you more miserable, being a Manchester United fan over the weekend or holding the stock this morning.
There's loads of losses. If we look at the top 5 leagues of English football, more than half of them are technically insolvent.
Just look at how many clubs in the Premier League lost money in 2023 to 2024. Only a handful of them actually managed to turn a profit.
I've had executives say to me, we're looking like behind the sofa, we're looking everywhere to get, a few pounds, dollars or whatever.
They're also looking overseas.
One of the things that English football clubs have started to realize on the backs of what's been learned here in America is that people are willing to pay for experience.
But some fans are worried they're being left behind.
To the corporates who are running our clubs and making the decisions, we are just customers and we can only be thought of in that way.
As clubs explore new opportunities to keep the money flowing in, does English football need greater American influence to keep it afloat? And if so, what might that mean for the future of the beautiful game? Beating inside any English stadium's chest is something tribal, fueled by pints. But these days, match day means different things to different people. From this, and this, to this, and increasingly this, thanks to all the money being lost.
It's certainly something we've seen in the United States over the past 20, 30, even 40 years. When an old stadium is demolished and a new stadium is built, there's a huge premium placed on premium seating. That's because you can charge more for it.
They're also able to utilize the facilities better, so they get more sales of food and beverage at half time and all those kind of things. That isn't really possible with really old stadiums.
As new stadiums are built across the Premiership, there's a premium placed on proximity to the pitch.
This has led to the rise of tunnel clubs at Premier League venues. Here, fans are able to wine and dine just metres away from top stars as they enter the arena. Kind of like an aquarium for footballers.
Getting you closer and closer to the action, that's an idea that's been long embraced in American sports, especially in the NFL.
While the concept was shaped in the US, Manchester City were the first to bring it to the Premier League. And now they're looking to the next stage of the club's expansion.
A lot is happening. You see that the music arena, 23,000 music arena, they have 120 events a year. The football club has 40 events a year. We feel that there is more demand for more capacity, so now we're expanding the stadium to 60,000 seats. And now we're adding a hotel, a very big fan zone, restaurants.
That investment, worth hundreds of millions of pounds, is about turning City's home ground into a multi-purpose venue that's profitable all year round.
Tottenham Hotspur are a really good example because they also utilise their ground, so their new stadium has brought in a lot of commercial income from the tie-ins with the NFL. They are able to use the stadium far more than the few games a year that you would otherwise have.
Footballers sharing changing rooms with pop stars and quarterbacks was almost unthinkable a couple of decades ago. But as the Premier League transformed into a global brand, it grew in appeal to foreign investors looking for status, power, and influence. From next season, more than half the clubs in the league will either be fully or partially owned by US backers. Golf investors have heavily backed clubs too. And if you're a multi-billionaire or a petro-state, a Premier League club is actually a bit of a bargain. The average franchise in the NFL is valued at $5.9 billion. The NBA, $4.6 billion, while a Premier League club is valued at a relatively humble $1.5 billion. On the surface, the Premier League and the clubs currently in it have everything you could want from a franchise. So why the apparent discrepancy? One reason, wages. Back in 2014, Premier League clubs spent about £2 billion paying players. In the 2022 to 2023 season, that number had doubled. Among the top revenue-generating English clubs, some spent as little as 42% of their income on player wages. For others, it's as much as 96%. But the overarching challenge to everything is the threat of relegation. Just ask Ted Lasso.
2 years ago, we played so bad, we had to drop down from the Premier League to a lower league that was called
the Championship.
See, that don't make sense.
Open leagues are those whereby at the end of the season, somebody gets promoted and a bunch of teams get relegated, which means they go to the league below. So it's not the same teams every year in the league. That's a big risk from an investment point of view.
No club is guaranteed to play in the Premier League, and it's this jeopardy which is central to the game. With the league comes a minimum of £120 million of broadcast rights. And these were the foundation of the modern Premier League.
It's a whole new ballgame.
It was created in part out of envy. People associated with football saw what was going on in the United States and how much NFL teams were getting paid for media rights. Back in the day, English football, you couldn't see it on television nearly as much as you would think. They didn't want people staying at home instead of showing up to actually support their club, so they kept it off of television.
The league's deal with Sky Sports changed the game, transforming football into a primetime event, much like the US. Fast forward to today, and the Premier League is one of the most watched competitions in the world, with matches reaching 900 million homes in more than 180 countries. This has translated into massive revenue. Premier League clubs now bring in over €3.5 billion annually from TV deals. That's more than double the contracts in Spain's La Liga and Italy's Serie A. But if you're relegated out of the top tier, the broadcast cash all but disappears. In 2021, a group of teams tried to find a way around that.
Whatever happened to the Super League, Ed?
Don't get me started on the Super League. We don't have time for that.
Essentially, what that was a bunch of team owners, many of whom were American, looking to make revenue more predictable for their football clubs. And how are they going to do that? Kind of by getting rid of promotion and relegation.
And before it began, the idea had already collapsed after it proved unpopular with just about everyone.
How can it be right to have a situation in which you create a kind of cartel that stops clubs competing against each other?
Okay, so that didn't work. But the reality is that player wages are still increasing, revenue growth from TV deals has slowed, and no matter how well you did last year, you can still get relegated. These all affect the value of a club to an investor. But what can get lost amidst all this is a club's relationship with its customers, or fans as they'd rather be called. As Premier League clubs focus on raising revenue, some supporters are left angry and exploited.
Fan groups are not happy. They're saying that they've affected the experience of people who've supported them for years and years.
Here in the United States, we long ago gave up on the idea that going to a professional football game is going to be affordable. That doesn't seem to be the case in England.
As a customer, I can change whatever supermarket I want to go to if I think one's cheaper than the other or has a better product. I'm not going to go and start supporting another team down the road if they start reducing ticket prices. That's just not how it works.
Fan protests at Manchester City and other clubs have had an impact. City says its new stand will be predominantly general admission seating, and manager Pep Guardiola emphasised the importance of the fans.
We need them desperately.
It's quite hard for clubs to increase season ticket prices, which is why I think they've gone for hospitality. That's a different audience. There's no one putting up banners saying, you've put the price up by too much.
And it's not likely to change either. Next season, over half the teams will be under American influence, just short of the 14 needed to approve major rule changes. For a glimpse into the future of the Premier League, the 2026 World Cup final in New Jersey will have a halftime show to rival the Super Bowl. Less this, more this. But there's still a way to go.
The Americans have been here since 2005 and it's still losing money.
My biggest fear really is that in a few years' time we just become some sort of international faceless corporate product.
There are some major cultural differences between the US and the UK and Europe when it comes to sport, particularly football. This is something seeped in the fabric of society in many ways.
You can only Americanize the Premier League to a point. There is a certain element to it that simply can't be commodified.